Hi everyone. Am I live? Am I doing it? Hello. Is it working? Am I there? There I am. Okay. This new Facebook Live thing is like the wonkiest thing. You have to go on a different. My whole bed is shaking because my dog is scratching. Buddy, buddy, come here, come here, buddy, come here, come here. Some of my best buddy, and there's Toby. So, all right, so a little bit more mellow environment today as I'm kind of hunkered in my bedroom working on some writing. So, and my buddy, my dog buddy, he keeps rolling all over the bed. So if I'm shaking, that's why I apologize. Such a wonky thing with this new Facebook Live thing where you have to go to, hi guys, where you have to go to like this beta test play Google Chrome thing to get on here. I don't know. Because if I use the camera on my laptop, it's like down by the keyboard, so you're looking at my nose. It's not a good thing. Anyway, so this week's topic on Psychic Medium Squares was spirit messengers and psychic messengers. And we had talked a little bit about that in our last Psychic Medium Squares live event. We had talked about spirit guides. And so I wanted to take a minute and just jump on and because I know that's part of our commitment to you all is to come and share some of our thoughts each week, and I think sometimes I forget to do that until Friday, so feel free to remind me. So I wanted to talk a little bit about spirit guides because we have several. We have the ones that are with us always. We have the ones that are, I'm watching my camera go like this because of my dog. I'm so sorry. We have the ones that are, hey, buddy, 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 go down. Buddy, go down. Good boy, go down. Buddy, go down. Go on your bench. Or come sit right up here next to me on my lap. Sorry. So, and he went right back to sitting where he was. He could not care less. So, okay, sorry. So, spirit guides. So, we have the ones that we are born with, the ones that are with us always. And then we have the spirit guides that are with us that come in for different purposes. They may come in for to help you with a task, they may help you with a test, they may help you with a project you're working on, they can help you with. Uh, Trouble relationship with a family member. Your spirit guides, the ones that come in and out, they can help you with anything. They can be your loved ones. In the case of one person that is a very dear friend of mine who's dealing right now with the pending uh, passing of a parent, the previous passing of loved ones in that family have been showing up to be guides, to inject humor and and a little levity into the situation. And we are constantly being guided. So for me, I want to share just a couple of stories of things that were true, that have happened to me, that were really helped me get to know my spirit guides. And as I've said before, it isn't it, people come and they constantly want to know, what's my spirit guide's name, what's my spirit guide's name, and that's not the important part. And other friends that I work with have said, you can give them a name, you can ask a name, you can assign a name, you can do that however you want. But for me, it's been really about, the name was not important. So in the case of one of my animal guides, and some of you may know that I work a lot with the manatees, and actually I have one of my favorite birthday gifts that I got a few years ago was this is my manatee who guides in my bed. He's good to sleep with because he's big and cuddly, and the dogs are not cooperative in that fashion. But I work a lot with the manatees, and came to understand from a dream that I had, where a manatee literally came in and poked its head through the porthole of a boat that had tipped, and it was sitting this way in the water, and the manatee came in through the window in the boat that was under the water and said, "Follow me." And so I swam out through the porthole, the circular window, and I swam out through, and I was able to get off the boat. And it was really an amazing thing, because in that I understood very completely that the manatee was my guide, and in that when I when I chose to follow, what do I need to learn from you, what do I need to understand, every animal has a message that they can share with us, and I'm not just talking about animal communicators like my friend Rhiannon, but be having um, animals that cross your path. What do butterflies mean? What do snakes mean? What do manatees mean? Why am I so drawn to work with the manatees? And so manatees teach us patience. They teach us calm and serenity. They teach us about warmth. They teach us about slowing down. So every animal that we work with, or every animal that crosses our path, has the ability to help us and guide us and give some wisdom to us. So we have been here in my house through this time. We have been um, uh, reorganizing our garage. We have my husband and I love to go kayaking, and he had bought a new kayak, so now we have 3 kayaks in a garage, and it's not good to lay them on the ground, and so we were trying to get a way to hang them on the wall. And in shifting things around, we discovered that we have a gigantic, I mean like gigantic cockroach living in my garage. And I knew somebody was out there because we had discovered a massive pile of roach poop, which I was grateful not to have to be the one to clean up. But my reaction, even a year ago, I mean, there are things I do not do roaches. I don't do snakes. I don't do spiders. But as I have continued in my own personal evolution of becoming more accustomed to communicating with animals, and becoming more accustomed to welcoming their presence and understanding that there's a message there, the kill it instinct in me has been abating. I don't want them near me. I don't want them on me, and I really don't want to look at them. But um, I said to my husband, I said, this is a very large cockroach. He's obviously been living in our garage happily for some time. He must be fulfilling some sort of function out there besides the poop. Let's just leave him to live his life in peace. And I felt better in my solar plexus. I felt better when I made that declaration. And I agree with you, ooh, gross, bluch, because I agree. And if he comes crawling out, I am the first one up on a chair, be like, ah. But I understand that there's a function that he serves. And I understand that the snakes in my yard, there's a function that they serve, because I don't have any rats or mice that I'm aware of. I have bunnies eating in my garden, but I'm delighted to share the bounty of my garden with the bunnies. So it's, when you start to understand that animals, even the icky ones, have a purpose and have a message and have wisdom to share, it really shifts how we view those animals in our lives. Now, we don't have to have them as pets if that's not your thing. I have friends with snakes as pets. That is not my thing. But when I see the spiders, when I go to the state park where I work to protect the manatees, when I see the giant spiders, and I just back away. And I just back away. And as long as they don't jump in my kayak, which has happened, we're all okay. So, so the animal guidance is really important. There was a day when I had this giant wasp that followed me literally from my front door around to the driveway, and as I was getting into my car. It wasn't threatening me. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel like I was at risk of being stung, but it was a very giant wasp that was following me and almost leading me. And so I made a mental note of it, that this creature was clearly trying to show me something or tell me something. And as we left the house and we drove down into like the main street of our town, we were stopped at a stoplight, and the same looking wasp was now, it's like 2, 3 miles away. And now that we'd driven in, now this same wasp was now outside my car and buzzing around, my side of the car on the passenger side, really trying to get my attention. And so I followed it, and I looked at where it was flying, and there was a billboard that actually had information on it that I had needed. And I didn't know the billboard was there. So the wasp was not trying to harm me, but it was trying to give me information. So let me shift gears here a little bit and talk about different kinds of communicators and guides. So my Aunt Dora is one of my guides, and she's someone that I've known my whole entire life. She was my grandmother's sister. Amazing, amazing woman that I was so blessed to have a wonderful relationship with her. And her daughter, who is my father's first cousin, she and I still have an extremely tight relationship. We speak, we email, we call, she's just a blessing in my life, and I'm just so grateful for that. And now my younger son Dylan is actually named for my Aunt Dora. In Jewish tradition, you name your a new baby is named for someone who has passed away. And in the time that my children were born, there were very, very few people of close lineage that had passed. So we really struggled to find a name. And when Dylan was coming, there was no one of my age in her line, because so she was my grandmother's sister. There was no one in her, her children and grandchildren were much older. Her great grandchildren were not yet having children. There was no babies coming. And so I had asked permission of her family if I could name Dylan after her, and everyone, of course, was very happy. And when she passed, so she always was a visitor in my house after she passed. She was always making her presence known, even in our house in California, and in our house in Florida. She was always making her presence known. And when I began to do this work, she really was a guide. She would communicate with me often. Our conversation, our communication became much more involved. And I could really go to her when I had questions, when I was fearful, I was upset, and I didn't understand things that were being given to me. And when mediumship came in really strongly for me, it was Dora that really connected and helped put down a gate. She's my gatekeeper, and she put down a gate and really organized the spirit world, helped me so that I was not so overwhelmed by the voices and the presence that I was feeling from people. For me, when that door opened, it opened very, very fast. It had always been there. I had closed it as a teenager, and when it reopened really fast. And then, I'm frozen. Okay. And then it really was for me like that scene from Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg, where all the people come in and she is just overwhelmed with communicators. And Dora really helped to put those folks in line so that they would have their turn with me, with when it was their time. And there's actually a blog post. If you go to my website, sherrydworkinsmith.com, my blog is hosted there, and you can see, I believe that post is called Gatekeeper, and that's the whole story of how my Aunt Dora um, helped to protect me and help get me organized in working in mediumship. I'm going to tell you one more story, and just about different guides and the different ways that our spirit communicators can help us. I'll tell you two more stories. So you may know I have a son in spirit. His name is Matthew, and he did not go to spirit with that name. When he came to me later and he was communicating with me, it became very clear to me in our communication that he was part of my guidance team, and that he was here to help me as I went forward on this particular path. And I asked him one day, because a friend of mine said, well, what's his name? And I said, I don't know. I mean, we just, as part of our grief process of that whole period of our life, my husband and I, we never put a name. And my husband really left it to me to decide how I felt like I needed to handle that situation. And so a name was never given. And in that moment, when my friend said, he wants a name, you should give him a name, and there was a whole thing, and you can read, there's another blog post about Matthew, and it's called About Matthew, and it explains how he and I got to know each other in the spirit world, and how I learned that his soul was with me 10 years later. His soul was still with me, and how I learned that he was a boy, which I hadn't known in the time. And to ask him, do you want a name? And at the time, Hurricane Matthew was heading towards Florida, and he he had said that that was the name he liked, and so he became Matthew. So not that many years ago, but Matthew works with children for me, when children come through from the spirit world, children always will come through with an adult because there's not enough evidence of a child. They may not be able to communicate to be able to say, I'm this person's son or daughter and I died at 4 years old and this is, my favorite toy. They may not be able to communicate that. So children will most often come through with an adult who was connected to them in the life. So a grandmother, an aunt, and uncle, a friend of the family, somebody that can be the evidence, the ground, the anchor point for that child. When there isn't one, or if the child is maybe shy about coming forward or hasn't yet understood how to move their energy to come forward, Matthew comes in. And so whenever my son Matthew comes through in a reading, I know that there's a child that's trying to come through to whoever I'm communicating for, to the sitter, to my client. And so I know that there's a child there because Matthew will bring them, take them by the hand and will bring them in. So it's really a fascinating thing. Um, so we've talked about animals with my manatees and wasps and things, and we've also talked about my Aunt Dora and my son Matthew. And I'm going to tell you one more of my spirit, my guide George, who I have mentioned before. And George is this is George. He's a hand. He literally sits on my shoulder, and I just can feel when he squeezes me. I just know that he's there. George has been with me my entire life. My whole entire life, I felt like there was a hand on my shoulder, and there's nothing more when I feel into it, when I ask. There's literally nothing more there than it's just a hand on my shoulder. But it's always been a source of comfort that I know that he's with me, and I know his name is George. It's when I at some point in my life, I don't even remember when, I said, what do I call you? And it was just given to me that the name is George. So I can't even give you a conscious memory of it. But I will tell you, at one point, several years ago, I was doing a reading for a woman who wanted information to connect with her grandmother. The grandmother was not a nice person in the life, and she was not a nice person in her transition, and she was not interested in communicating with her granddaughter. But when we connect to the other side, we can use our spirit guides to connect to the spirits of the client and get information that way. So I was able to get answers to the questions that the woman in front of me was asking, but I was not getting them from her grandmother specifically. I was getting them from other spirit communicators that were around her. Some were her guides, some were my guides. The grandmother was not happy with this situation at all. She was not happy. And after the reading was over, a few hours later, and I had done my regular cord cutting procedure that I do after every person I connect with. And she was still not happy. And as I went to brush my teeth that evening, I just felt all the energy drain out of my body. Like I needed to lean on the counter, and then I needed to go sit down. And then within 5 minutes, I was laying on the floor, and it was really hard for me to catch my breath. And I understood very quickly that I was under a psychic energy attack. And I just thought, oh, this is new, and I don't like this experience at all. And the grandmother was angry, and she was letting me know. And I stopped for a minute as I was laying on the floor, and I needed to ask myself and my guides, I said, where is this coming from? And in my mind, immediately I saw the image of the grandmother there. And then I said, okay. I said, I understand you're angry with me. I am sorry, but I am was doing in service of my client. And I do understand that my job is to also to be in service of spirit, but there is a balance. And that the information, was not going to hurt her granddaughter. The information actually endeared the granddaughter more to the grandmother. And so I made my apology to the grandmother as best as I could. And I said, it's time for you to go. How do I stop this? And immediately I felt George on my shoulder, and he said, bring in the light. And I just really felt light right above my head, like a beam just waiting. And as soon as I said, yes, bring in the light, it just went shoo, and it came down inside of me. And if you were with us on our meditation on Thursday night, Wednesday night on my Facebook page, Sherry Dworkin-Smith, Psychic Medium, we did a meditation, and we talked about bringing in the light and pushing that out through every pore in your body, through every cell, and imagining that light coming, filling you up, and pushing out through every pore in your body. And I really, that was what I did. And as I brought the light in, as I pushed the light out, I pushed her away and pushed her back away from me so she could no longer harm me. And then I asked Archangel Michael to come in and cut any cords that she had to me, and to separate anything that might allow her to come back anywhere near me. And I was tired for a little while, but I grabbed some crystals and went on with my evening, and it was a really amazing experience to know that help is there. Help is there for us in the form of our spirit guides, our animal guides, our angels, our loved ones. Help is there for us in so many ways if we can remember. And that's really the thing, is when we get into a question or a conundrum or a crisis or something, ask, reach up and ask them, because they are always so incredibly willing to help us and guide us in any way that they can. But the key is we have to be the ones to instigate it. We have to ask. And then we must stay in that place of gratitude. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for guiding me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for your wisdom and protection. Thank you. So those are just some things, some stories, some wisdom, some information, some guidance on your guides that I wanted to share with you today. I hope this information is helpful. I hope it brings you joy and comfort. I hope it allows you the opportunity to connect more fully with your guides. And I look forward to speaking with you again next week, when we'll be talking about something else, which I forget what it is, but we'll be back. Have a great weekend, everybody, and thanks for tuning in.